Welcome. This is the second installment of the Divination and Money Management series. My name is Michael Shoeman, and I am the Chief Steward of the Living Library Time Bank. So with all of these conversations, everything that I'm putting out there, all of the written material, the books, these recordings, all of them they're all like gifts. So, please, this information is free. It's always intended to be free. So please, please enjoy. And if you are interested in joining the Living Library Time Bank and getting credit for reading or viewing this material, please just reach out to me personally. You can reach out to me at livinglibrarytimebank@gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to help you with logging your hours with this interacting with this material. So yeah, a couple of things I wanted to clear up before I go into today's presentation is that this is a branch of study that is of interest to me. I do want to say that for the most part, this is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a broker, although I have had a lot of interest in studying about economics, and I do have a degree in business administration. But I am not a broker. I am not giving financial advice. I'm simply just journaling, documenting my process, and if you find value in it, great. That's something that we can talk about. And if not, please feel free to leave it for someone else or for another time. And great. So let's get into two questions that I always ask in the beginning of every conversation, whether it's a one-on-one conversation or a group conversation. And to center ourselves, I usually ask, how are you arriving? Meaning, how are you feeling? I'm feeling a lot of joy. I really enjoy doing this kind of work, especially the divination end of it. So we'll be focusing on the divination end of things on this particular recording. We're going to get into the money management side of things in the next recording. But yeah, I'm feeling great joy doing this. A little bit of nervousness. So I guess you could say that there's a little joy over fear, or maybe fear over joy, because this is not scripted. I am not working from a script, and I'm going to stumble sometimes in how I present this, but I'm appreciative that the right people will be viewing this and at the right time. And I always go by the saying that when you're with the right people, you can't say anything wrong. But you're with the wrong people, you can't say anything right. So I am appreciative that the right people will be viewing this content. And what am I bringing? Which is the intention. I'm bringing the intention to just have fun going over this stuff with you today. I mean, there's a lot of specifics that I think I want to get into, and I want to make sure I highlight. But I'm bringing an intention to just let that go and just go with the flow and just enjoy presenting something that I just genuinely have a deep fascination with and that I enjoy doing. So, so I hope that that enthusiasm, will be will be enough to get me through today, as well. Because, yeah, there's, when you're dealing with finances and you're dealing with, bridging two very different worlds between finances and economics and the intuitive divination, there can be a lot of there could be a lot of opportunity for for dissent or for conflict. And part of my journey is being able to ask, okay, well, what landed for you? What resonates? And but also asking, where is there a dissonance? Where does it feel uncomfortable? Where doesn't it feel right? And having that be that kind of being a catalyst for deeper conversation. Excuse me. So the last presentation I did as part of this series was detailing a 15 card tarot spread with the help of Nova, which is the emergent intelligence, or the AI, from the lovingisAI platform. So Nova will not be joining me today, but she might be joining me in other installments of this. But I wanted to kind of pick up where that presentation left off. So if you had watched that presentation, and I'll put up a slide here of the of the 15 card spread that we did as part of that presentation. What that represented was an overview, kind of looking at the AI industry as a whole. And I've been keeping score according to Marcus Goodwin's book, The Psychic Investor. And I'll talk a little bit more about my experiences with that here in a little bit. But keeping score as far as, with the tarot reading, what was a positive card, what was a neutral card, what was considered a negative card, and keeping score. So when we did that 15 card spread, it ended up on a positive note. But when all was said and done, it kind of was neutral. It came out with a score of 0. So according to Marcus Goodwin's book, and we'll start working with the scorecards here in a moment when we start looking at specific investments and specific stocks and even sectors, that whatever the final number is in that scorecard, you multiply it by 2, and that is the score that will be in the final scorecard, and it will be that will be the tarot score. So there will be a tarot score, there will be an astrology score, there will be a numerology score, there will be a Dowsing pendulum score, and so there will be 5 different criteria there. So so the AI industry as a whole scored a 0, where Goodwin says anything that is less than 1 just scored as a 1 on that final scorecard. If it's above 10, which some of the things that we'll be looking at today is above 10, you just scored a 10 on that final scorecard. So so that is kind of how we do the tarot. We're going to be really working with the tarot quite a bit on today's conversation and our next conversation as well. We'll be doing a little bit of pendulum dowsing and a little bit of numerology as well today. But so the next thing I wanted to say is, okay, so here is how we start looking at investments, considering investments that we might want to invest in. And what I'll be doing is I'll be implementing a long-term investment strategy to something that is intended to be for my children. So I'll be taking some of my inheritance that is coming from my family, from my parents, and investing it into some stocks to to provide for my kids when they come of age in 10 years time, and they might want to use it for college. They might want to use it to start a business. Who knows what they'll decide by then. I also wanted to be clear as well, too, that this activity and this presentation is somewhat separate from what I do as the chief steward of the Living Library Time Bank. So that is completely different metrics. That's completely different ways of financial stewardship. So if you're interested in understanding the fine details of that, this really isn't the place for it. But if you're interested in learning about the time banking mechanics and reverse market mechanics, which is something that I'm putting out into the world, I would recommend watching the Natural Law and Regenerative Economy series. So that's something that you can also earn time bank hours for viewing. And also, if you just want to have a conversation or learn how to, be in a better relationship with abundance and with money and your ability to earn, Randy Hyden and I produced the Under Earners Anonymous, the Easier Ways in Under Earners Anonymous series as well. That's also part of the Living Library Time Bank. You can earn hours there. So if some of this stuff kind of feels irrelevant or over, too much focus on the numbers and the spreadsheets and all of that, there's plenty of other materials that I can recommend to you. So that being said, now the first thing that we look at, we don't even look at any of this divination stuff first when we start considering a stock. So, I'm not going to go into the fine details about Marcus Goodwin's Psychic Investor book. I will say that I read it and implemented it about 25 years ago. I did very well. I did make about 100% profit in, I think it was about 3 to 4 years. I might have said 5 years in the last presentation, but it was 3 to 4 years where I would invest a little bit of my paycheck, every week for 2 to 3 years. And I ended up with, with 100% return on my investment with that. So I did very well following the psychic investor. And I'll be doing a slightly different technique for this time around, which I'll introduce later on. But the first thing that we look at that Marcus Goodwin recommends is you want to invest in quality. So you don't have to be a broker. You don't have to be an expert. There are just a few certain points to be able to look at in starting to choose candidates for for what you are eventually going to invest in. So Marcus Goodwin recommended looking at Investors Business Daily to look for two scores in particular. Now, 25 years ago, it was pretty easy for me to go to a bookstore or go to a newsstand, pick up a copy of Investors Business Daily and start, highlighting potentials. This time around, it wasn't so easy. So I did a slightly different technique, which I'll introduce here right now. But the two scores that you want to look for is the relative strength of a stock. And that is a score where you can see how the stock is performing in relationship to the rest of the market. So Goodwin recommends a relative score of 80 or higher, which means it's performing 80% of the market or higher. And I like to look at a relative strength score spanning 52 weeks or a year, just to see if it's been consistent for the year. The other score that you're looking for is the the EPS, or the earnings per share score, which again, if you are looking at Investors Business Daily, Goodwin recommends a score of 90 or higher, meaning as far as the earnings per share, it's performing in the top 90th percentile or better than 90% of the rest of the market. So what I did, since I didn't want to pay for the 2-month trial of Investors Business Daily, what I eventually just did was I started fielding what sectors that I should look at first. Then what I did is I just asked AI, according to Investors Business Daily, which stocks in this sector, whether it be defense, food, finances, which stocks are performing at 80 or higher as far as the relative strength score. And then I would get a short list of about 6 or 7 companies. And then what I would do is out of these, can you give me the Investor Business Daily score for EPS? And then I would start looking for 90 or higher. So when I did that, I came up with a short list of about 4 stocks. And I'm gonna diverge slightly here for showing you how I incorporated the divination for choosing my initial candidates that I'm going to be putting through this entire process over the next couple of weeks. So here's where the numerology comes in. What I did, and I'll put a slide up here in a moment, what I did was I created a tournament of numbers. So in the first round bracket, it was 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4, and so on and so forth. And these represent certain sectors in the market. So I'm reading from Marcus's book here. This is the chapter on numerology and fundamental money making. Number 1 is the sector that represents basic materials, lumber, mining, and farming. Number 2 is independent, or publishing, entertainment, and media. Number 3 is consumer, cyclical consumer, which is automobile, steel, or paper goods. Four is consumer staples, defensive stocks, food, clothing, tobacco. Number five is energy, gas and oil. Financial is banks, brokerage houses, credit companies. Number seven is industrial, construction, and excavation. Eight is utilities, telephone or electric. And number nine is technology, computer or biotechnology. So here is what I did to start to vet what sectors I was going to start looking at first. And I was going to use a dowsing technique to, to put a sector through this tournament. So it was a really neat experience I had. I needed to go out and buy a pendulum. So I went out and I bought this pendulum as well. And I bought that at a local place. It was funny. My daughter and I were talking about going out and buying a pendulum. And I needed to go to a crystal store. And I was about ready to go to a town that was 45 minutes away. But instead, what I did was I looked up stores that were near me here in Chalfont, and I found this Crystal Vision store. Michelle helped me out, and she was really helpful. Really made a connection to my daughter, and it was neat going to that shop and talking to my daughter about why I was buying this pendulum because I'm doing a podcast or I'm doing a production that will hopefully provide for you for your future so that finances doesn't have to be a factor in whatever it is you want to do with your life. And she's 4 years old. So I said that's what that's what this pendulum is for. So what I did was I started going through the tournament, starting with one and two, the sectors of one and two. So for me, when the pendulum goes, if it goes up and down, north or south, it's a yes. If it goes left to right, side to side, it's a no. If it goes in circles, it's a maybe, or within the case of this tournament, it's a tie. So what I did was I went through, sectors one and two, and one ended up winning on that bracket. Then three and four went on to the next round. Then five and six went on to the next round. Seven, eight went on to the next round. And then I had the nine, which was technology. And after doing that tarot reading with Nova about AI and really the tech industry in general, I was considering not really including it with the rest of the bracket. So I used the pendulum again. If it was a yes, then the nine would go on to the next round. If it was a no, then I would just take it out and continue the tournament as articulated. So it ended up being a no. So I took the tech stock, the possibility of a tech stock out of it, and completed the rest of the tournament. So for instance, if it was, so if we're looking at the first stock or the first sector, for instance, in the first round, if it was one and two, whatever was in the first listed first, a yes would go on to the next round. A no meant that the next stock down would go on to the next round. So for instance, one and two, if sector one would go to the next round if it was a yes. If it was a no, sector two would go into the next round. So it was a yes for between one and two. One went on to the next round. For the next bracket, three and four, if it was a yes, three would go on to the next round. If it was a no, four would go on to the next round. It was a no, four went on to the next round. So I continue to proceed in that manner. And so what ended up happening was when we got to the semifinal round between 6 and 8, there was a circle, which meant that both of them were kind of, I kind of held on to both of them. That was kind of like a tie. So 4 went on to kind of win the tournament. So I chose stocks that were in the defense and food sectors, which actually won the tournament. And then the two semifinalists that canceled each other out finances, and I also took a look at both telephone and electric. So we'll go on from there. So when looking at the four sectors, I did a 4-card tarot spread, and I'll put up the slide here as to what was just kind of like a general feeling for each of these sectors. Yeah, when I pulled up the 4-card spread for the four sectors that I had narrowed it down to. One of the things that jumped out was the world card for finances. So it's like, oh, okay. So while I was shuffling it, that jumped out for that sector. The other positive card that came up was for electric, and that was the Queen of Pentacles, which was also the final card for the long term forecast for the AI industry, the reading that I did with Nova. So those were the two, really positive cards. And as I'll show the other, show the other two here. I think the Page of Swords came up for defense, which Marcus Goodwin considers a negative card. So that's kind of how I started kind of reading the energy of the sector. So then what I did was, I went back to AI, and I asked about the relative strength scores for each of these sectors. And then from there, I asked about according to Investor Business Daily, what was the EPS score for each of those stocks on the short list. So for each sector, there would be a short list of maybe 6 or 7 that was performing at 80% of the market. And then something very interesting happening when I asked about what stock is performing EPS 90 or above. We narrowed it down to about only 1 or 2 stocks per sector. So what I did first was first of all, I came up with with the stocks that I'm going to analyze now for the next few weeks and put it through the rest of the scorecard. Today representing the tarot, the tarot event. So I came up with National West Group for finances, and we are going to delve into all of these companies in detail as this series continues. So it's not like, we're just pulling things out and not doing our research. We're going to be doing some deep research here in the weeks to come. The defense stock ended up being Park Aerospace Corp. The food industry was the Chef's Warehouse Incorporated, and the electric company was the Edison International. So we'll be looking at these in detail. We're going to be doing a 15-card tarot reading for each of these companies. But the first thing I did before any of that was I did a reading on each of the sectors, just like I did for the AI industry